Like you said, you're
Twitter's
one big fan.
is Twitter licorice?
No, Twitter's NORTH.
NORTH.
The number 2,
Mm-hmm.
NORTH.
Okay.
At North to North.
Perfect. All right. Let me just start. We are almost ready. Hey, what's up, everybody? Glad you could join us today on Baseball Outside the Box. You know, this is the show that loves to interview baseball's best coaching minds who love to challenge the status quo. Hey, listen, I was excited. I've been waiting for this for a while. A good friend, longtime friend. This guy went from, think about it, I'm going to introduce him in a minute. He went from selling hot dogs in 1969, Wrigley and Comiskey, to the top radio sports personality in Chicago by far. And no disrespect to Mr. Russo on MLB Network, but he should have had that job because this guy is fantastic. Why say he's so good? No nonsense, tells it the way it is, understands baseball really well. He's been around the game a long time, and he's a straight shooter. He's in the Hall of Fame for broadcasting. And remember, he was the personality who developed the Score Radio in Chicago. If it wasn't for him, Score Radio would not be where it is today. So let me welcome my good friend, Mike North. What's up, Mike?
Pete, it's good to see you. I know I look like Papillon, you know what I mean? I got the beard. I got my one tooth falling out. I had to go put my tooth in. I'll tell you what, this quarantine, it's a beautiful thing for me because I'm 67 now. So basically, you know, I could do this standing on my head. Watch baseball now, you know what I'm saying? Have a sandwich, like Jiggs used to say, and just enjoy, bet some baseball, which I'm into now on ESPN 1000, wagering and stuff like that. But yeah, we've known each other 25, 30 years. I must correct you. I'm in a couple Hall of Fames, the Softball Hall of Fame, the Italian-American Hall of Fame.
American Sports Hall of Fame.
But I'm not in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. None of the guys that were in the original lineup are in. From, not yet, at least. So we'll see what happens. But we didn't have a lot of friends.
That out on purpose. You know, maybe
I believe there'll be a cold day in hell before I'm in, which doesn't matter to me because what you do is you just show the resume and then you move on. It doesn't matter if you're a baseball player. I mean, there's guys that never won an MVP, but you put their numbers up against MVPs and all of a sudden, boom. And if you're fan friendly, you could become or get into the Hall of Fame like a Bill Mazeroski or a Harold Baines, guys that don't have legendary numbers, maybe accomplished minor things. So although Bill Mazeroski's 60th or home run against the Yankees with Maris and Mantle wasn't minor, I don't think it was enough to get him in, but he's a good guy. It's a political situation, and politics always comes into everything.
Oh, absolutely. And being a straight shooter sometimes gets you in trouble. And I'll tell you this, you know, when it comes to when you were with the Score, my brother followed you all the time. Trucker, it was Trucker with an attitude. He loved you, but you know, you were popular because you were popular with the average person, the no-nonsense person. That's what made, you know, you told it the way it was. And sometimes people don't like to hear the way it is, but you know what? That's too bad. Sometimes they need to hear it.
Well, yeah, and you know, I think there's some, but it's not like it was. The guys that worked at the Score, and I'll continue, the best lineup ever put together. From Tom Scher, who took heat from us because he was like Niedermeyer in Animal House. He had to keep us in line or try to. He brought respectability to us, and he brought us credit. He brought broadcasting credentials. And then you had me and Jiggs, and then you had McNeil and Boers. Then you had Mike Murphy. You had guys that, Les Grobstein. I mean, just a tremendous, the producers, Jesse Rogers, Judd Surratt. You had Mike Greenberg, who's still, in my eyes, the best reporter that ever worked for the Score. So there's a lot of bloodlines, and what we had there, and this goes for anything, whether you're coaching, which I was proud to do for 6 years at Notre Dame High School in Niles, and I learned a lot from that which is why I'd probably be more understanding now towards certain things in baseball even, because I think the sports interject when it comes to patience, attitude, and stuff like that. But I think our lineup was second to none. And I think, and you're right, I mean, we could put ourselves, our station, early to late, 3 shows only, daytime station only, never will happen again. I couldn't even get a job in radio now because I'm a high school dropout. And we had the backs. They had our backs, Danny Lee and Seth Mason, who just recently passed away. And we just had a great crew. And I had the greatest time of my life. So, you know, it was all good. 16 years there, then I went to Fox.
You know, you talk about education. Sometimes, you know, there are areas in education that's overrated, no doubt about it. And I think people are starting to see that. But here, I want to take the audience back a little bit before we get into actual baseball, because,
Sure.
you know, here you are, you know, in '69, you're serving hot dogs. Then you open up BB's, you know, your own hot dog place. And there's
3 of them we had, and we had BB's as our anchor, but we had hot dog carts at Addison Park right off the Kennedy and stuff like that. So I had a little nice thing going, and then this opportunity came, which was called a sports station.
Yeah, but people came to you also at the hot dog stand to talk sports, and then also.
Well, what happened is
right?
Danny Lee and Seth Mason came in from XRT, and what happened was that I found out because they came in, and Harvey Wells and Lynn Bramer, who's at XRT now, which is a progressive rock station. I'm not going to call them that. Don't get mad at me. Just a solid rock station. I mean, grinders. There's great stuff. I mean, I met everybody from Tina Turner to Robert Plant there in that building because we shared it with them. But they had come into the hot dog stand way before I got into radio. And Danny Lee came in one day, and I simply said, if you don't start a sports station, instead of what I'm reading in Robert Feeder, that you're going to start a cool country or jazz, and you bought the call letters WJZZ, I said 1991 right now is perfect. There's 12 sports stations in this country to 20 right now. Denver, Kansas City, LA, San Diego. There's not one in Chicago. There's a market open. He goes back home that weekend, buys the Tribune and the Sun-Times, goes to the entertainment section, counts the ads in the rock and roll and entertainment section, counts like country and western and jazz. For jazz and country western, he finds 2 ads. He goes to the sports section, and he finds in the old Tribune and Sun-Times, when there was actually, they were like a phone book on Sunday. The Sunday paper had over 50 ads in each paper, close to 50. I think the Sun-Times had 35, and the Tribune had like close to 40 in the sports section. That Monday, he goes in, and he tells these guys, we're going to do a sports station. We don't know anything about sports. And Seth Mason told me this. He goes, are you going to listen to that goof that owns the hot dog stand? And Danny Lee, he says, I don't know if we know anything about sports, but that's where the money is, and that's how it started.
You know, and here you are now. You had no experience at all behind the mic. None. And
it's just talking to people
right away. Was there any
town.
training? Any training? Anything going on before?
Yes, I went to WSBC. What happened was I told 1 week WXRT, and check out WXRT, folks. It's a great rock station in Chicago. If you got the iPads and everything else, but Lynn Bramer and Harvey Wells and Norm Winder, all just great guys. They were the hierarchy, and Lynn was just getting rolling as a rock and roll guy, as a DJ. I hate to call the XRT people were unique. And Tom Paciorek was going to host Athlete's Feet with Bob Verdi. And I read that because I used to read Feeder way before. I knew everything about the media. I followed stuff since the 60s. Well, from Wally Phillips to Steve Dahl, I can name them all. And I learned from all of them. And I said, why is Tom Paciorek hosting for a week on radio? I could do it. You hear me. They go, nobody knows you. I go, how do I get known? They go, well, if you want to broker time, you can. But it might probably be a waste of your time because you're 38, 39 right now. And you're too old to get into radio. From the rest is history. I brokered the time, spent $300 for a Saturday show, $200 for the time, and I got my own producer, Tom Couch, to come in for $100. Had Dan Cahill, who I think you're familiar with from the Sun-Times, who I played softball against. Good guy. I called him. I said, Danny, list me in the Sun-Times. And then in 2 years, That's when the sports station came around. They already knew me, and Ron Gleason wanted to give me weekdays. And then somebody dropped out, and I got what they called a temporary type of situation for 6 months. But then they tore that up, and they gave me a contract.
Incredible.
Just like that, it happened overnight.
Folks,
almost.
go to Twitter, North to North. That's North, the number 2, and then North. And we'll put all that on the show notes also. And don't forget, subscribe to YouTube, Peter Caliendo. Get the 90+ shows. Mike, hey, look, I just thought about this. Howard Stern got a movie after what he made, his career. They got to make a movie about this. I mean, your story is incredible.
Right now, and I find out the movie business is no picnic. Adam Rifkin and Jeremy Morrison are great people. Adam Rifkin just did The Last Movie Star with Burt Reynolds. This Burt Reynolds' last movie. I saw it. I got in touch with them. Jeremy Morrison, a screenwriter who followed me when he was little, okay, sat in his dad's car, rewrote the screenplay, and we just got it sent back to us, and we got to do some rewrites. But it's called right now it's called Raging Mouth, okay? And it's about my climb from picking paper for the Chicago Park District and tossing garbage to the hot dog stand to being the #1 local sports anchor by a mile as far as money was concerned. Not sports anchor, #1 sports talk show host in the country.
Yeah,
in the country.
Wow.
Chris Russo, and I know it burns his ass. Believe me, we know it. Because we got a call. Chris will deny this, I'm sure. But I like Chris, and I always did. And Chris, I never imitated Chris. I was my own guy. I've never changed. But he set the table. So I love the guy. But he called, and Jesse Rogers answered the phone. And you could ask Jesse. He picked it up. It was Chris Russo from New York. And he goes, is that true? He got that much money? And Jesse goes, yeah. And he hung up. He'll deny it.
Love it.
I love Chris.
Love it. Yeah, I love watching them, obviously, but I was wishing that you'd be on one of them.
Well, you know what the problem is with that? And this is nothing against Chris. Chris Russo set the table for a lot of people. He didn't set it for me because Chicago never heard anybody like me or that station with the person at Terry Boers. Nobody. They never heard us like this.
Yeah.
So he didn't set anything for me. But what he did was show me it is possible. But he's much less raw than I was. Way less raw. Way less controversial than I was. And the fact that he's got a job on the Major League Baseball Network, I know this for a fact because I've been told this. And it shouldn't, but it hurts his credibility when he takes it easy on the commissioner or when, you know what I mean? If you work for Major League Baseball and you're a talk show host, or you work for the NFL and you're a talk show host, it does hurt you as far as in some people's eyes. But I've known Chris forever, so you know what? He ain't afraid to say what he feels, but nobody's going to tell me that he can go on the MLB network and go, I want Rob Manfred fired tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't do it.
I don't care. He could tell me that's not true.
No, there's
I want Rob Manfred and Joe Torre out tomorrow.
Yeah, they've got to toe the line.
Chris Russo. And that will be the last you'll see.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
Reinsdorf should sell the White Sox because he hasn't done nothing for 30 years. He's a waste of time.
And that's the other one. You were up for the White Sox color.
Yeah. That was just a show. I think that was just a charade. Jerry did let me, they didn't even give me a tryout. He basically has told me over the years, Jerry, and I'm still friends with Jerry Reinsdorf, I think. He has just told me he's told me over the years that, I'm going to have a mint. The breath bounces off the screen. Ooh, no, I'm just kidding. That, I wouldn't be right. And that I've never announced baseball before. Well, I told him I never announced. The last time I saw him, I called him, and I did tell him this. I remember you saying I never announced baseball before, and I know I could announce baseball standing on my head, whether it's color or whether it's play-by-play. 2-1, that's tough. 2 out, You should have caught it, Jimmy. And as soon, I think it was about, the last time I talked to him about 2 weeks before, he hired Robin Ventura, who had never managed before.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
But he told me I never broadcast baseball before.
Yeah, that Mike. Nowadays, it's if you don't toe the political
Oh, I didn't care.
line, yeah, you're just not going to get hired in that area. But what's interesting
And
is
I could never work for Jerry because I tell the truth like Harry Carey did and Jimmy Pearsall, and I'd be gone. And that's
they
the
don't
way
wanna
it
hear
goes.
that.
And I understand. But if you tell the truth, more fans will come to the park. I'm sorry.
absolutely no different than the radio station.
Right.
That's the reason people listen to you.
If you think you're fooling people, if you think people don't know you haven't been in the playoffs since 2008, if you think people don't know that you and Kenny Williams and Ron Schuler have only brought one world championship since 1982, if you think they don't know that, then you're crazy. And I've often wondered, I've told people, and I'm hated by most in the Sox front office. Believe me when I tell you this. Even though I had a show called Monsters in the Morning on Reinsdorf's TV station that broke all-time sales records for 1 year. That I do know. You know who told me that? Somebody who used to work there in sales. Okay? But what really they don't want to promote the truth. And if you promote the truth, people will respect you. If you tell people for 5 years you're rebuilding, they will buy the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And easily 60% of the White Sox fans, okay, are sheep because they've been brainwashed by the papers, player and owner-friendly people in the media whose jobs depend on all the owners, whether it be Rocky Wirtz, Tom Ricketts, you name it. So to me, I told Reinsdorf this. If you put me and Ozzie Guillen in the booth for one game, we'll make Bill Walton and Jason Benedetti look like kindergartners. And that was their big game, period. And me and Ozzie have a history, but Ozzie's professional enough to do a great job, and so would I, and we'd break ratings records.
I agree.
He just looked at me. He looked at me with his mouth open.
I agree that that it would make a great show. I agree 100% with you. Hey,
Do
Mike,
it once. We'll break everybody. We'll break their, and I'll walk away. But they'll never do that because I'll say, boy, he's got to catch that ball.
Right. Yeah, and
He's got to catch that ball.
Who would you say would be an announcer in the past that was like that? Harry Carey or?
Yeah, he was fired.
Right.
He fired the White. That was the beginning of the end of the White Sox. At one time in the 30s, 40s, 50s, the White Sox owned this town.
Mm-hmm.
They owned it, and really into the 80s they did well. But when early on, Reinsdorf did well, and then when everybody, at least smart White Sox fans, began to see that he was treating it more like a business than like, I want to win first. Then and they see a lot of the moves, and they see the same front office that's been in place for 30 years. He's got the same game plan, Pete, as the Bulls.
Loyal.
As the Bulls. Paxson, Gar Forman, Reinsdorf, Paxson, Gar Forman for 17 years with no pressure from the media. Nobody stepping out. And then you got Reinsdorf, Williams, and Hahn. And the way it works is Hahn takes all the heat. Williams works behind the scene, just like Paxson does.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a charade on with this new guy who can't even fire the coach with the Bulls. This new young man from Europe who took the job because he couldn't believe he was offered it.
Right.
But you gotta follow guidelines. Yeah, I just some guy in a phone booth somewhere and said, "Come here."
I just got a message on Facebook. David Scott says Reinsdorf paid $19 million for the Sox and $9 million for the Bulls.
Yes. Well, just like Steinbrenner paid $10 million for the Yankees, and they're worth $3 billion. There's no doubt. And he's the most miserable man in the world right now, Jerry.
With all that money.
He's got all that money. And the one owner I heard from in Chicago, this is a bad business plan, he says. Well, yeah, there's 50 million people, buddy, unemployed. Okay? This is why he's never had a connection with the fans. You know what I told him? Why don't you hire me? I'll be your ambassador. I'll just walk around with you and make you look better. That's all I'll do.
Yeah.
And, so he's never had that connection. I mean, the Ricketts folks have a connection. The guy sat in the bleachers.
Mm-hmm. He still
Okay.
goes into the crowd. He still sits.
Right. Walks in the
now.
crowd. I told him you got to sit downstairs once in a while. But he hasn't.
Yeah.
He sits up there, and he has a great stadium deal, even though he didn't want it, in fairness to him. But he wanted somebody to help him build it. That was his biggest mistake. And he had so many investors, and he's got to come back. It's just like I'm with Rich Melman in a couple of the restaurants, which, by the way, I haven't gotten my quarterly check for a year because of, we used to get him. Rich is the best, but because of COVID.
They shut down, yeah.
Let me tell you something. Rich Melman's the best. I get this check every 3 months because I was an investor. Okay, and Joe's in Las Vegas with him. Beautiful. It's not huge. It's not little. It's just nice. Just a nice thing to come in the mail. And that's what Jerry does with his guys. Because Jerry only owns 9%, I believe, of the Chicago White Sox. But he's the majority owner he makes all the moves. He put the deal together. He doesn't own like 75 or 80% of the White Sox. You go to the media guide. Remember media guides?
Oh, yeah.
And there's a bunch of people, owners, part-time. George Steinbrenner, I remember, was a part owner of the Bulls, Yep. So because of Jerry. And let me say this once again. Jerry Reinsdorf and the White Sox try everything they can, and they do some good stuff. Jerry's done some wonderful things for people, and they have, they build baseball diamonds. They basically have the Sox Academy.
Mm-hmm.
They have put in a traveling baseball team. I pay attention to that stuff. It just seems to me, though, if the Cubs did it, the connection's there. The White Sox do it, and it's like, okay, thanks, White Sox. And and they do a lot. And I just don't think they get enough credit for the stuff that they do. But I don't think Jerry cares, to be honest with you. He's got his business plan, and that's it.
Hey, David, my assistant, David Scott, I got a producer. This is fantastic. Never had a producer before. David Scott, Reinsdorf owns 19% of the White Sox and 40% of the Bulls.
There you go.
Listen, since we're on the Sox, I know
I was off by 10% with the White Sox.
Yeah, but, since we're on baseball, the White Sox, what do you think about the club? They put together a pretty good club when it comes offensively, it looks like.
Well, you know what? Here's the deal. I said the over-under for victories once the 60-game schedule was started was 32.5.
Mm-hmm.
I go, wait a minute. Hold on. Who's playing defense? Because they have a terrific hitter in Tim Anderson, but he's not a good fielder. At least he hasn't been. He's already got in there. He's had a couple other drops that he also has made up for by having those quick hands. Their outfield with Jimenez in left, I don't believe he's a left fielder. I believe Adam Engel has to be in the outfield every day, along with Lewis Roberts, who's the center fielder. Eloy, if he's in left, I think he's a DH waiting to happen. Moncada's been a heck of a pickup, but we gave up a pitcher that helped Boston win the World Series. So that still sticks in my craw. And also their second base is a little shaky, but I didn't see anything, Pete, with the pitching staff or the defense that wanted the White Sox winning over half their games. I don't know about you. They can hit, and there's going to be 10-5 games, 14-10 games. But when you have, for the most part, where the rubber meets the road, the pitching's going to let them down, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I'm worried about, some of the injuries that they've had in the past, too, with their pitchers. I'm concerned about that. And speaking about that, what was your concern before the season started with this? We're talking about 2-week spring training. Now, they're great athletes. They work out and everything. But, especially pitching, and I think we're starting to see it a little bit already with injuries. 2 weeks for a pitcher to prepare for real game situations, not throwing hard in a bullpen. But what were some of the things you were worried about? Was that one of them?
No, because you know what? I've been watching baseball as a child since 1959, and they have long spring trainings. And in the last 20 years, there's more injuries to pitchers than ever before. So that's a bunch of crap, I think. I think some pitchers – I think if you have a good off-season regimentation, it's different than when Bill Monbouquet, from the Boston Red Sox would show up after working construction, during the off season, and then he had to get himself in shape. These guys are ultra athletes. and I just think Kopech was hurt before this situation. Dylan Cease has had issues. Lopez is a head case. I think what Theo Epstein did to win in 2016, this is what Rick Hahn's got to do, or Kenny Williams, or whoever's running the team. He had the nucleus in the field. Now I'm going to the American League, where an average pitcher can be great. Hendricks, the professor, Arrieta, Lester. He didn't have, this is why I hated when Sale got traded. He didn't have anybody to help that team pitching-wise win a pennant. He had to go out and buy it. And that's why the Grandel signing to me was mystifying. You have an all-star catcher, granted a switch hitter, this crap that he can frame pitches better and all this nonsense. $77 million spent on a 31-year-old catcher when you already have an all-star catcher named McCann, and you got Zach Collins who's going to come along. Now you sign this guy instead of going to get what Theo did. We got Moncada. We got Luis Robert, who's the next big thing. We got Jimenez. We got Engel. We got some good fielding. We just need pitching. And he didn't do that. They went out and got more hitting when they didn't need it.
And with that money, they could have got a lot of good pitchers. The other
They
thing,
did get Keuchel. They did get Keuchel.
Yes. And the good thing, the Cubs, if you notice, the Cubs early on, not only were they signing pitchers, but they were drafting a lot of pitchers. So they were stacking up pitching-wise. And everybody says the name of the game, pitching and defense. And sometimes we tend to forget that.
Yeah, the rebuild to me, here's how I know the rebuild hasn't worked, or the nonsense of a rebuild. It seems like a lot of teams, the Bulls like to do this when they stink, we're rebuilding. I've been sitting through their rebuild for 2 decades. Okay. I mean, now enough is enough. But when you're rebuilding, okay, you don't pick up a 31-year-old catcher, but what you do pick up is a couple of other pitchers that can help you. And that's what's going to be their downfall. Really, do the talent scouts. You know what? Lopez went on the injured list before they could bring him, send him to the minors. He goes, oh man, whoo! I'm all of a sudden the back going on me a little bit. So he's still with the major league club, okay? But they don't have the pitching to compete with Minnesota or with Cleveland. No.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, let's jump to the Cubs.
I love it.
The Cubs.
The Cubs, underachievers for the past 4 years, I think. I remember when they won in 2016, I said to myself, I feel bad for everybody. I feel pity on their souls. They're going to be living a living hell because the Cubs are going to probably knock off a couple more championships because they're still so young.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe Madden, I believe, got very fortunate with the one. I think they won ahead of time. But I don't know if this is going to be their only one, maybe this year. But the new manager was needed. I see Madden struggling in Anaheim. The problem with Joe, from what I understand the last few years, it was a country club. Hmm. And the thing I didn't like is when the Cubs won after all these years. When they came down from the scoreboard, they had the jerseys with the gold numbers. And when they started losing, what did we hear? Hangover.
Hangover, right.
2016. Madden allowed a bunch of grown-ass men to have a built-in excuse, and he led that charge. And I thought, look, I come from the Yankee days. You don't think Mickey Mantle had he could have had a hangover every year, because he did. But the Yankees never had hangovers. Right. They wanted to win every year because that's when they needed the money. That's when that check from the World Series meant something. The check for the World Series is very high, I'm sure. I don't know what they get now, but they don't need it. So I just think the built-in excuses started from the get-go. I'm glad Madden's gone, and David Ross so far is doing a pretty damn good job. He did have a nightmare game the other night because it's his first year, but my God, I could have hit Kimbrel. I mean, I wanted the bat against Kimbrel. He's 5'7". He's not your intimidating guy, Pete.
Yep.
He's not a Gossage type. He's not a thick pen type even. He reminds me of Dave Smith. Remember Dave Smith?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Was great with Houston, came to the Cubs, and then crapped the bed,
Right.
6.00 ERA, nice guy. That's what I think Kimbrel. I think Kimbrel's a bust.
Hey, full disclosure, David Ross actually played for our USA team at 15 years old.
Nice.
So I got to know him pretty good, as a young man and how he grew up. And I really believe, someone said, well, how's he going to be able to succeed if he's never managed before? But remember, he's caught pitchers, which is the number one thing, is understanding pitchers. He understands players. He's a respectful person. He's a person that will tell you exactly what he thinks, because he's going to tell other players what he thinks. So I really believe, sure, he's going to make some mistakes, but remember, the players still have to execute. You can manage the game, but if the players can't execute, is a concern of yours that David Ross at all, and also the bullpen of the Cubs? I know it's just only 5 games.
Look, I'm happy for David Ross. He's like, but he's indebted to who? The guys that are on this team.
Oh, yeah.
And I think without Rizzo and those guys, I mean, they made him into a cuddly mascot almost. And I'm not demeaning his career whatsoever, believe me. But I think it opened a lot of doors for him. And let's say me and you, Pete, had played together for 5 years. And then I become the manager and you're struggling a little bit. And you got me all sorts of things that no substitute catcher would ever get. And I got to go up to you and say, we're shutting you down for a couple of days. You're not getting the job done. It's harder than people think when you're friends with somebody. Sparky Anderson said this. You can't be friends with your players. Are you kidding me? This guy shared the greatest experience on earth as a player, but those guys are still there. And I just think it's easier for somebody from the outside. I'm not saying they respect the guy, but there's going to come a time or two where voices are going to be raised or something like that. And there's going to be feelings hurt because of a deeper bond.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, if he's got the support of the front office, ownership, it's a little bit easier. But also, right now they're 4-1, 4-2.
Right.
Yeah, he started off saying getting on a losing streak. Now we're really going to see how he handles that, and that'll be the truth.
Good point.
When they start losing. What else about the Cubs? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think their pitching's great. I think if the White Sox had their pitching, okay, look out. If the White Sox
I agree.
had Hendricks, if they had Lester, if they had the guys they have now, the Cubs have, Darvish, look out. And if the Cubs had the Sox pitching, there'd be a mess. I think it's all about the starting pitching early. I think it's the way, and there's where Ross has that strength. He's a catcher. I think the Kimbrel thing, though, woke people up to the fact, hey, I'm inexperienced. I'm going to stay with this guy because you know what? I don't want him to be mad at me or something or whatever. Because he said he had to shake the rust off. Apparently, he missed last year. Okay? I mean, Kimbrel's at the point now where he's the rusty car in the lot with 3 wheels, So basically, that's what I think is going to – I think the closer, the bullpen is an incinerator. The bullpen is bad right now. They got to find a pitcher or two. I don't care if it's in the minors or whatever to help you, because you cannot go with the bullpen they have and hope to be there at the end, because it's a different game now. There's no more Fergie Jenkins, no more Marichal, no more, I'm finishing this game, and that's just the way it's going to be. The Hendricks complete game shocked all baseball the opening day.
Absolutely. You would have thought pitching wise, they would, the game plan was going to be maybe throw a guy 3 innings, 2 and 3, or somewhere where, they're not full blast, but I'm seeing 6, 7 innings that a lot of pitchers are pitching.
Well, how did Hendricks do it on the next start? Because everybody had Hendricks going to the Hall of Fame after the first start.
Absolutely.
Different ballgame. So you might be right about that. Did Ross extend him all the way with the first game of the season because of an experience because you'd think he's a catcher and he would understand it's early, but he kept him in there and I had no problem with it. So I'm not going to backbite him. I thought it was cool, but everybody was shocked because it was a complete game, period.
Mike, my other concern, and I'm not going to disclose who told me this, but it was a big league manager who's had him. I was surprised by the Darvish sign, all that money, because, the reports I had that, yeah, he could pitch. He's got certain pitches and all that, but at a certain point, he's going to bend. He's not going to deal with the pressure aspect of it. And that's what we've seen, in my opinion.
There's no doubt. And you hate to call anybody.
No, it's just
what
it looks like.
You hate to call him frail. Yeah. But I'm not saying frail physically because he's had his problems, but so do a lot. I think frail mentally.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's never gotten out of his own way. Ever gotten out of his own way. I think, he's had some injuries. I think that he's a guy, and this is fine. Everybody's got a tolerance for pain. Some guys can play with a slightly pulled hamstring, and some guys can't play if their thumb is bothering them a little bit. I'm not saying that he's that type of guy, but he does have injuries. See, last year was hope for me, because he seemed to have a turnaround type of situation. But, I'm hoping he doesn't revert to the old days. I really am. And, I know people in L.A. that were thrilled that he was gone, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We were going, yay! I'm going, wait a minute. They know pitching over there. You know what I mean? Just like when Cutler, the Bears quarterback, for 8 years. When Denver got rid of him at 26, everybody went, yay! The Bears have really got it. And I go, whoa. I think in Denver, they know quarterback play. Why would they get rid of let a 26-year-old kid walk? So there's always baggage somewhere.
And I know, it's an imperfect science. We're going to make mistakes. I love the front office of the Cubs. They always do their homework. I was just surprised in this aspect that maybe they didn't dig deep enough. I'm not sure. But hey, listen, are you a traditional baseball person, a traditionalist where you don't like changes in the rules? Because I want to get into a few rule changes, and I think this will be fun. And we'll end it with that because you've been great.
I missed the second baseman getting flipped in the air on a slide. Yeah. I missed the catcher getting run over. I miss it because I didn't have to experience it, but I did when I played baseball. We all did. I played shortstop and even into softball we had a short center, but you'd have to take a throw from second, and that they took you out back in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
I played with metal spikes when they had metal spikes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ty Cobb used to sharpen his spikes. That's the kind of guy he was. He wanted to just rip your hands apart if you tried to tag him. So, you could go over some rules because I think
I want to start with this one. I'll tell you why. Because in the Olympics, we started it. We're the ones, the World Baseball Softball Confederation. We're the ones who initiated at the highest level in the Olympics the extra inning rule. We put a man on first and second. Now there were reasons behind us doing that. It had to do with sponsorships, the Olympics, time. They wanted to shorten the game, otherwise they wouldn't put baseball in the Olympics. So we had to think of something. But now all of a sudden you're seeing it in Major League Baseball. Love to get your thoughts on that one.
A guy gets an RBI from two guys that didn't even get hits in the 10th inning, to win a game. That's going to screw the records up. I just think it's wrong. I think, hey, this is the way the game was invented. It was good enough for over 100 some years. I think the game, if you played 162 NFL games, each team, people would get bored pretty fast. I think baseball has their little downtime. I think this year it's maybe good because it's almost like, a traveling baseball team, the way that they're playing with 60 games. But I'm absolutely against putting men on base in extra innings.
You think it's here to stay? Because, once you put a rule in, sometimes it maybe – I can see it for the 60 games, the cut down games, pitching. I'm sure that might be their concern, I'm guessing. But
they're concerned about COVID, but right before the season started, Manfred goes, yeah, wait a minute, 6 more teams in the playoffs. We want everybody to stick around longer because, for the owners and for them to bring in the money.
Yeah, well, I went to 16 teams.
Yeah. I thought with the COVID, you wanted to get in, get out, make sure everybody's healthy. But now you're adding more teams because the owners started crying, led by Jerry and some others, not just him alone. So that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, the other area, if we want to speed up the game, I love instant replay because I just love to get it right. I'm sure you would rather go back to, hey, it's baseball. Let it, people are human. Let the umpires make mistakes. It's part of the game.
I don't mind instant replay if it's done quick.
But yeah, I got a suggestion. How about this? New York's got 30 seconds. If you can't make a decision in 30 seconds, that means you had to watch it 10 times.
Right. Well, I'll give you an example. Last week, I bet golf, and I bet John Rahm, the tournament he won. But I bet him in a matchup against Ryan Palmer. Ryan Palmer is losing the whole match to him. and Rahm's up by 1 all of a sudden. And then he hits this beautiful shot off the hill, but the ball moves before he hit it. What happened was he put the ball down, the club down, hit a blade of grass, but because he hit the blade of grass behind it, the ball moved a centimeter of an inch, and Nick Faldo, oh, it moved. Look, it moved. You can see the ball slightly move. Wait a minute. They had to look at it, like you said, 10 times. They took a 2-stroke penalty from Rahm. I lost the match. And he won because he didn't care. He was up by 5. Go ahead. But it was such a chintzy rule. And when he told Rahm he did it, he didn't even know it. So you're right about that. If it is if you have to wait over 30 seconds, the call should stand.
And the other part I would think they need to change is, the umpire makes the call, right? That he's got to make it right there and then. The manager gets somebody to replay it and watch the replay. Well, the manager shouldn't have that. That's a waste of time. The manager should make that same decision on what he saw, not what the video.
I agree. I agree. The fact that you can hold on for a minute, Johnny. Hold on, Billy. Hold on for a minute. Yeah, Tommy, we got it, Jimmy. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do it. That's wrong.
And it slows the game down even more. So I think that sometimes it works against it. Hey, here's a great one. How about 3? We come in a relief pitcher. You got to pitch to 3 batters.
I like that.
You like that?
I like that. You know why? Tony La Russa ruined everything, and so did some other managers by going out. I mean, Francona and God. That one World Series, I forget what it was. Well, this is the 6th pitcher in the 9th inning. I'm going, kill me now. Remember, I mean, every I'm like this. I got the rope. I'm throwing it over the beam. Because the game took an extra hour because every hitter had to have a different pitcher, period.
About the DH?
You know what? I've been okay with it. I liked it the way it was. I want 1 DH, 1 regular, so you get the best of both worlds.
You like to see pitchers. I mean, pitchers never hit. They struck out. It's an automatic out most of the time. I know you're going to say certain guys, that can hit, but man, when you want another guy in there hitting to get more offense, I say that because you're going to watch baseball no matter what. You're passionate about it. But now we're talking about young kids, growing up watching baseball. Man, it can be boring. We're talking about home runs, strikeouts. Strikeouts are the all-time strikeouts ever before. Whether you like it or not, baseball is becoming, in my opinion, is becoming really slow and boring.
Well, wasn't it before? It's a thinking man's game, basically. You can sit in the stands and every pitch is different. With the pitcher, you have strategy you have to use that other managers in the other league didn't have to do. I mean, I remember Dusty didn't even know what a double switch was with the Cubs. Remember that? Yeah. What do you mean a double switch? Let me think there. Yeah. What do I got to do? Move the catcher to that? Okay, thanks. So, believe me, I'm no genius either. I'd probably have trouble with it, So I think there's more strategy involved. And I remember pitchers every so often. There were some good hitting pitchers, but you're right. But really, did Adam Dunn, because he was a DH, really excite the 17,000 with his home runs? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it both ways, Pete. Maybe because we have 2 teams in town.
Yeah, and with interleague, if you're gonna have interleague, I think you're gonna have to either have the DH for everybody or not have it. Make it a little easier.
Well, the youth baseball league seem to like the DH.
Yeah, they like the DH. Well, it gets
an extra
player in there also.
Yeah.
All right, listen, Mike, you've been awesome, but let's finish it with this, because I know you'd love to be commissioner of baseball, right?
Yeah.
If you were,
because the Astros would be out ineligible for a postseason championship, and so would Boston.
You brought it up, and you're right. I should have had it in my notes. The Astros not penalized enough. Now, what about Joe Kelly? Throwing at the hitter, he wasn't even there. I get the message, but
he was on Boston.
Yeah, wouldn't you want somebody that was there to? And then the other part I don't like, because this is not good for kids to watch either. If you're gonna hit a guy, don't aim for his head over his head, because.
So let me ask. You're right about the head money. You're right, but you got to remember those guys lost a lot of money.
Yes.
Because of that team.
But it hurts. It hurts if you hit him hard in the back at 98.
Well, that's Manfred's fault. He left them vulnerable because he didn't do anything to them.
Yeah.
Pete, you got to have consequences. I don't care if it's 2000, if it's 1919, or if it's 2000. If you got caught cheating and you do nothing to them, the integrity of the game's gone.
Yeah,
It's gone. Houston and Boston, 17 and 18. I'll give you a perfect example. Mookie Betts, okay? He's off to a really bad start right now, but it's a new league, and he'll hit. Some guy said to me he had a 300 lifetime batting average on Twitter. I go, yeah, because he had 345 in 2018. The next year he hits 295. In the cheat year, Mookie Betts hit 425 with runners in scoring position. When Alex Cora got launched, you know what Mookie Betts hit with runners in scoring position last year? 259. So my point is, he got a 12-year deal that they're going to regret giving him because it's already started out there. Off of that 1 year, basically, although last year he had 295. But my God, his giant year, I'd be willing to bet you he never has it again, because if you know what pitch is coming, and don't let people tell you, oh, that doesn't matter, you still got to hit it. No, if you are a pro,
it matters.
You know what pitch is counting, it is gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And when I see what's going on with Mookie Betts, and then they get rid of him because he's not going to be around to smell, because he is a top 3 player in Major League Baseball. But man, he benefited, Pete.
Hey, listen, would you have taken away the title?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They don't get a title either as Boston. 17 and 18. If Boston, they're still doing the investigation. Well, what are you talking about? Alex Cora was here and he was there. You already fired him for both. Basically, he can't come, and he only gets a year. Alex Cora wouldn't be around for 5 years after the 2 stunts that he engineered with Carlos Beltran, by the way, and other people. And Houston doesn't understand the animosity. It's because of the commissioner and Joe Torre. Paisan's a little weak, Pete. Little weak. Really. Got rid of the sliding, little weak.
He's bending under the pressure. You know, when you get, like you said, you're towing that line, you know, that office. Yep. The other, you know, Pete Rose gets banned for life. And these guys get a chance to cheat, and they don't do anything about it?
They don't do nothing, and Pete Rose is gone.
Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, Rob Manfred should be fired. I mean, basically, I cannot believe that they go into the season. And really, Bregman the other night can look at Rob Manfred and say, maybe it would have been nice if you just because he gave him immunity before. Wait a minute. You didn't have to give them immunity. They would have flipped. There was no Judge Landis would have. They'd be banned. They'd be out of baseball.
Yeah.
If Judge Landis, I don't care about all the times are different. No, cheating in baseball and the way they did it technically, not stealing signs, which is an art. If you could steal a sign, if you're at second base, I mean, I hear Steve Stone, who's terrific. He calls every pitch. Yeah. Now he may know the signs. But he also knows how to steal signs. But which is an art. But technically, to go down there or to hear garbage cans clanking, you talked about your kid, about kids being thrown at. How about, hey, kids, they cheated and got rewarded?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I was shocked when they're talking about banging, you know, garbage cans.
That's horrible. It's an embarrassment. But they are sugarcoating this because, quite frankly, maybe the Yankees were doing it too. We haven't heard the last of that one either. Yeah,
this is going to continue. And folks, as you know, if you're a baseball coach, I mean, it's okay for the first base coach, third base coach to steal signs from the
second baseman.
Yeah, second base. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to do this the right way, but that was definitely the wrong way. All right, so Commissioner North.
Yes.
Whether it's now the coronavirus during this time or the season, what changes would you make if you made any to make the game better?
During this season or when they go 162?
Let's talk coronavirus. Is there any issues you got right now with coronavirus?
No, I think that besides the Marlins, Major League Baseball is doing a good job.
With that.
My deal with the Marlins was I think they broke the rules because they were all wearing masks.
There's an announcement. There was a story. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm prefacing with not sure if it's true. That there was a player that went actually to a nightclub, and I guess he admitted it. We'll find out soon about that.
Well, you know what? I can't criticize anybody for going to a nightclub.
No, you want to go out.
I mean, I went to them for about 40 years, so I'll just steer clear of that at the time of my life. But I'm just saying, I've been sober for like 14 years now. But when it comes to nightclubbing, we're a fraternity. We went out a couple times, Pete. So those were some good times. But I really think that they're doing a good job with the crop. But if I had the 162 game season, I wouldn't have had. First of all, I would have added no playoff teams. I think it bastardize the season. They're going to give wild card teams with 2 teams from each division making it. It's insane,
Hockey
I
has
just
that,
think
right?
it's bad.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's bad. I would enforce the pitch clock. I've been hearing about the pitch clock since Charlie Finley.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Charlie Finley going, they should have a pitch clock. And for like every year, for the last like 45 years, I've heard 3 things, okay? And one of them has been, they should have a pitch clock. And every year they say it's going to follow in spring training. And then the next thing you know, the pitcher's stepping off the rubber for the 3rd time. I think they're quicker now, but that's the problem. I think, and commercials are a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, there's more than one. Baseball's a great sport. If you don't have any commercials, you can get rid of a game. You can get done with the game really fast.
You got to love this one. 2 areas that the Major League Baseball is looking at. One, which I have a hard time believing this, and that is that if a pitcher picks off, he's gonna have to step off before he picks off because they want to increase the running game, which guys aren't running anyways. And the second one addressed both of these. The second was the electronic strike zone. It's coming. I don't know what year, but you're going to have an electronic strike zone at home plate. You're not going to have an umpire there.
So there's no more arguing with the umps. I mean, there was nothing better than the 7th inning of a Cub Pirate game that was 1-0, and it was 85 degrees, and the game was moving slowly. And then there was a bad call, and Santo or DeRocher back in the day would run out and energize the crowd. And that's what I thought baseball arguments did. They were like, it was like in the middle of the game. Let's jack some people up, because managers did that to jack their own team up, to fight for what they thought was a bad call, but it also inspired others. That's gone, and I think that's what replay has done. Although there are some still, like, where would Bobby Cox? Well, what would he have ever done?
Right, nothing.
He would have snored in the dugout with Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, throwing every. He would have been like Casey Stengel in the 50s. He'd be like this, like this, and then Mantle would have to wake him up. Hey, there's a pitching change for the other team. Okay, hold on. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a good man, a friend manager of mine. He told me a story when he got. I think it was Billy Martin when he got tossed. He went to the bar, but they would call from the bar, to talk about the pitching changes and everything. So
I love him.
Yeah, that's another good Italian.
Billy Martin had every demon you could possibly have in you.
Yep.
I've had some demons, but when you talk about skeletons in the closet, Billy Martin, theirs had suits. His skeletons had suits every year. Hey, grab me the blue one for the middle skeleton. You know what I mean? So he was great. There'd be no Earl Weaver.
Right.
Weaver, Tommy Lasorda used to jack his teams up by intentionally. They all did it, going out and firing on the umpires, kicking sand. It was awesome. Lou Piniella.
Yeah.
It was part of the game. Part of the game. It's a shame that's gone. The electronic strike zone is garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage.
It's
Save
coming.
it for tennis. Save it for tennis. You see what it's done for tennis? Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Hey, we got an electronic strike. We got an electronic zone for the tennis match. Yeah, you got a rating of nothing. Okay. Very space. I see the tennis channel. I turn it on. You know what I mean? For about 2 seconds.
Yeah. And off it goes.
It's off. But they got an electronic zone. I think the fans, if you voted on it, the young kids probably want it, but because the electronic strike zone's going to have problems, in my opinion,
Oh,
too.
no doubt. It's not perfect.
No. We'll
You
see
know,
what happens. I'm hoping it doesn't happen for 20 years.
The one thing that will happen is that obviously players aren't going to be able to argue with anybody. They're going to have to. That's the call. And sometimes be
I
careful
think it's
what you
part
wish
of the
for.
motif.
Yeah.
Umpires are part of the motif.
Yeah.
What's Norman Rockwell? He can't. If you wanted to do a painting of a baseball player up to bat, what do you have, a robot behind them? Come on.
Love it, Mike.
Young kids are
Listen.
going, who's Norman Rockwell?
Yeah. And unfortunately, kids are on technology all the time. So you're right. They're probably for that. It'll be.
You want to know something? If I would have had a computer, I would have never flunked 7th grade.
Yeah.
I would have been an honor student. I was smart. I just didn't want. I hated school. It was like I go 8 hours. I got to sit in a chair and be taught about, teach me how to fry an egg, how to do my taxes. Okay. I don't want to hear about
money. Right.
Yeah.
Teach me some money skills.
Yeah.
Mike, listen, you've been awesome, man. Tell everybody, what are you doing now? What's your major?
Well, I got to tell you, I have a great partner. Well, I had some great partners in the past, but Carmen DeFalco, and I do a wagering show called The Odds Couple, and it's on from 7 to 8 every Friday, and then 8 to 9 every Saturday morning. And I also have a small interest in a beautiful website. My buddy Aldo Gandia has put together a wonderful website called Bears Bar Room. If you're a Bear fan and you don't follow Bears Bar Room, then you're not a Bear fan. Same goes for the NFL. And Bears Bar Room is just follow us on Twitter. And we got Mark Shanowski, Les Grobstein, David Schuster, a host of just great people on the website. So I do a show a couple Wednesdays a month. I just had Jim McMahon on yesterday.
Nice.
I've had Jimbo Covert on, Mike Ditka, all my buddies, you know what I mean? So that's been a lot of fun. But me and my wife are just retired. I mean, when I retired, I started getting some jobs, that I like. Because, when I'm not on every day, it's got to be hard for the guys. I feel for them now because there was no sports for 6 months. It was like February every month.
Yeah.
For the last 6 months for Carmen and Yurko and all those guys, David Kaplan and people like that, and Waddle and Sylvie. So I give them credit because, man, I mean, I know I could have done it, and I know because I liked challenges, and that definitely would have been a challenge.
Hey, you never know. That phone might ring. You never know, right?
Yeah. Phone rang the other night. B says, "Come outside. I got some groceries in the trunk."
Hey, listen.
You know what's funny? I hope I don't shock people because this is going to ruin my rep. I'm completely good with everybody and everything. I'm comfortable with my own skin. I mean, this could hurt but that's the way it is. When you make it through, you want to live forever, but when you make it through and you're able to do some great things with a lot of great people, you just look back at things fondly, like how I met you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, awesome story. Yeah. You went from selling hot dogs to the #1, radio guy. I mean, it's incredible. So,
I know we're trying to get off, Pete, but I haven't seen you in so long.
No, but why do there's no reason for any apologies because of the fact that you've gone to the highest level.
Well, the best part is this. I played on the team called the Blackjacks, softball. Great team. Won championships, everything else. For people that don't know, outside of Chicago, 16-inch. And I'll never forget, we had a team meeting. And they had it close to my hot dog stand. And I got into the team meeting with all the guys, and I said, "Listen, guys, I don't know how much I'm going to be available yet this year." And I said, and they go, "Well, what are you talking about?" And they go, "Well, I'm thinking of trying to get into radio." And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. And then my buddy Phil Mercurio said it. Are you out of your mind? What do you mean you're trying to get into radio? Fortunately, it didn't interfere with my softball, and I did get into radio, so that's how it all worked out.
Hey, what would you say, since we're, you're willing to
Yeah,
keep going a little bit, what would you
sure,
say,
I'll go all day.
what was the success? What was the reason that made you successful? Was it your toughness? You never gave up? What was it? That you're brash? I mean, you just tell people the way it is? What's the,
Because people, whether you like the guy or not, a big change happened 4 years ago with the president. It was a different,
right.
you'll talk to people and they'll say, we finally have our own guy. And I think when I got there at the Score, I remember, and the people that listened finally had their own guy. But we were irreverent, all the shows. The bottom line is that I'll never forget Seth Mason. Somebody faxed, you can't speak English worth a damn. So I go to Seth Mason after the show. I go, listen, Seth, I got to know from you. I go, listen, I'm getting criticized from the media for my grammar. I'm getting criticized for my boldness. I'm getting criticized for swearing on the air. I'm getting criticized for, all the stunts that I'm pulling, which we don't need to go into now. But I mean, I pulled, I said to him, but my English, should I clean it up a little? He goes, you clean it up, you're fired.
You know what? And I agree with
That's
him.
what I had, a guy that had my back.
Yeah, and I agree with him. That's part of who you are. It's part of who I
Right.
am. Hey, listen, I speak Italian and some Spanish and English. I get it mixed up. I don't have the proper language all the time. I make mistakes. But you know what?
What they didn't know, what he got, what Seth Mason got and Danny Lee, the people listening had the same issues.
Yes.
That's what they didn't get. The homogenized nonsense, the petting zoo. Okay, nonsense. Don't worry, you're 1 for 15, but things will get better.
Yeah.
That didn't go with me. I knew Candy Maldonado, for people that don't remember. When the Score first started, the Cubs picked up this outfielder, Candy Maldonado, as a free agent.
Yep.
San Francisco. I said, this was my first big stepping out. I go, Candy Maldonado? He stinks. And I took an onslaught. And he stunk for the money we gave him. From Jamie Navarro, I've been criticized. It's funny when you get criticized by the fan base. It's worse than ever now. There are actually grown-ass people, Pete, that actually believe that the White Sox rebuild was working. Okay? And I'm not ready to take that. And you know why I know that? I've never heard Steve Stone say this is a success. Ever. And Stone and I, we've had our moments. I respect his baseball knowledge. Have you ever heard Steve Stone going, this is a really good rebuild?
Yeah,
No.
No.
Because he is pedigree when it comes to knowledge, and he knows what he's seeing, but I don't care. Steve cannot be as honest as he was, for instance, when he was with Harry, because Harry was the buffer.
Agree. Mike North, now, today, could he make it?
Who,
you started
me?
today,
No, not in sport. Well, he can if he's got the right boss.
Yeah.
But they don't want, because of the corporates.
Right.
And because of stations that, I think they're allowed 8 stations, these corporations. You got basically a lot of cookie cutter stuff out there now. If you have the right boss, though, and he wants to make money, and there was enough money involved, of course. But he's got to be able, because they didn't care what the media said back in the day. There was no Twitter or anything else. Everything got in the papers, and I generated publicity, and whether it was good or bad, and my bosses had my back for 5 years. Then Danny Lee sold it for $77 million along with XRT.
But could you imagine the publicity you would generate now with all the social media?
Not really, because you know what? I can't even say. See, I got a wagering show. I don't have to deep into those waters. I only work once a week. But if I ever look, nobody lasts forever. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
Michael Jordan. He went to Washington. In my lifetime, I saw the greatest basketball player on a Chicago team. Don't matter who you are, whether it's radio, TV, teams, you know what? At the end of the day, for the great ones, it doesn't turn out good. It doesn't. Even Michael will be the first to tell you he was good when he was with the Wizards, but management didn't have his back, and they wanted to get rid of Phil Jackson. He wanted to keep him, and he did Reinsdorf's work. And I've said that to Mike back in the day. You did Reinsdorf's work. He goes, what do you mean? I go, that's what he wanted. I don't think Reinsdorf wanted to bring you back. He had paid you $30 million for years, way before A-Rod. So he figured, I'll get rid of Jackson. Jordan has already declared, I'm not coming back if Jackson doesn't come back. So Reinsdorf said, this is beautiful. This is great. Then Pippen will fall, and then we can rebuild with Eddie Curry.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I think happened.
You know, and I believe there is, you know, I got to meet Jerry Krause, who was on a plane with him.
Great man.
He's scouting with baseball. I really thought he got the raw end, because here's a guy that started with scouting baseball, then went to become a GM, won 6 championships, and then he went back to baseball. I mean, and how many guys have you seen do that and be successful at it?
He discovered Ozzie Guillen. He discovered he discovered Earl Monroe, Earl the Pearl.
Wow.
I mean, Jerry Krause was picked on by the players, the media, everybody. I never picked on him personally as personal stuff. He told me one time, you know, I told him, Bill Cartwright, you're singing his praises. I go, Jordan can play with anybody, which turned out to be true, because after Cartwright left, we had Weddington and we had Luke Long. And he said, well, how many championships have you ever won? Jerry Krause. I go, wait a minute, you never won one. You know, were you shooting at me? You know, but he was a product of Taft High School.
Yeah.
I think that it hurt him not to get into the Hall of Fame when he was alive. I think Jerry Reinsdorf got in before him, which was sad. But Jerry had influence. He could have, I think, gotten Krause in earlier. He didn't. It's almost like Buck O'Neill. After he died, you know, they let him in the Hall of Fame. It's just nonsense. You wait. Santo, you know, Ronnie.
Ron should have been in a long time ago.
Well, whether you agree, whether he was going to be in or not, you should have tried to get him in when he was living, for the most part, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, I mean, or when he had his, you know, I mean, he agonized for years. I think what happened with Ronnie, and I love Ron Santo as a competitor, he got really caught up in the Hall of Fame thing. And that left for, you know, for some unhappy moments.
Yeah.
When he thought he was going to get in, remember? They had the cameras there. The cameras are there going, hearing him be rejected.
Yeah, that's.
And why did they shouldn't have even called. You know? Hey, I've never seen somebody go, hey, George Brett, or hey, Jim Rice, yeah, you didn't get in this year. Take care. And they hung up the phone. I never got that. And Ronnie was hurt, man.
Yeah, I can see that. Mike, you've seen a lot of great managers, coaches. I'm always interested in understanding what makes them great. Pick a manager or coach that you think is what at the highest level and why they're so good at what they do.
I think Al Lopez was tremendous. People may not remember him. The '59 White Sox.
Yeah.
I mean, they broke up the Yankee juggernaut. I mean, you know, the Yankees dominated the American League. There were no divisions. With Cleveland, he was a winner. He comes to Chicago and he's a winner. Me and him had it out on the radio when he didn't vote for Nellie Fox. His own second baseman, who was an MVP,
didn't vote for him,
was 1 vote short in the regular voting. And Al Lopez, and then I found out about it. I got him on, and we went at it, man. And he hung up the phone. How dare you? And then he ends up getting in the gold membership or whatever, because they had odd tiers now to the Hall of Fame where you can recognize guys that should have gotten in. He should have gotten in on the regular, I thought, vote. But he didn't, and Al Lopez stopped him. But he was a great manager, quiet, boring, unassuming. You didn't even know he was in the way. He was like a Walter Austin type. But, you know, don't get me wrong. I don't like that certain type of manager all the time. That's why I'm a Billy Martin fan. Well, but what the real Billy Martin is, you know, was his party. And he, you know, when he was with Detroit, he made out weird lineups that he would have never made out. But Earl Weaver was a great manager. I think DeRocher was a great manager.
About
but I think
LaRussa?
Nah,
No?
political, man. Too political. He gets Baines in the Hall of Fame. You know, him and Reinsdorf. I don't think Baines is a Hall of Famer. I don't. And if White Sox fans don't like that, that's too bad.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine, Reggie Smith, who's switch hitter, hit a lot of home runs, hit 286.
He was better than Baines.
He's not even get recognized.
No, because Baines played a lot of years. But that's not the criteria. Show me the records.
Reggie Smith hit from both sides. He played
Yep.
18 years. It was in the World Series many times. I mean, talk about a
Show
player.
me the records of Harold Baines. Show me the 300 seasons. Show me the 40 home run years.
Yeah, no, I
You know,
agree with
the
you.
guy averaged like 25 and 80.
Great guy,
That's not
nice
Hall of
guy,
Fame.
but that doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's what they always say. So they try to shame, oh, he's a nice man. And nobody said a word.
Right.
Nobody. I would have. I said it beforehand. You
And
know?
nowadays, I mean, if you really think about it, there's really nobody out there in baseball that speaks their mind much,
No.
whether it's in the media or whether it's anywhere else.
No, they're all friendly.
Yeah.
They're all friendly, you know. And I understand. Look. They paid us so much, we didn't have to worry about getting other jobs. In other words, I know guys. We all know guys, and I respect them all. But if you're a talk show host, and then you're working for a TV station that's owned by the owners, there's a conflict. You're never going to be able to be as honest as you want to be. I got enough money that I didn't give a deal.
Right, and then when you get to that level, I mean, you can do whatever you like.
And you know, I understand why the guys today can't, because they'll be gone, man.
And I might take that statement back, and I'll tell you why. Because our friend Kaplan, I saw him the other day after the Cubs imploded with the bullpen and with the closer. He went off on Facebook about the Cubs. So, man, I should say that not all of them.
Not all of them, no.
But
I will also say this, and this isn't because David doesn't do it. David does take off on him, okay? There's no doubt about it. And I wasn't including David, but I will say this. I want to see him take off like that on Reinsdorf and the White Sox, because that's a White Sox shop now, where he works.
Yeah.
Where he works.
All right.
So, and it's nothing against David, and David has criticized the White Sox at times. But the tirade he went on the other night, okay, that was vintage. It really, really was. Yeah. It's got to be dealt out evenly, though, if teams are struggling. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's got to be fair. Mike, man.
But David's been on top of his game, and he's at ESPN 1000 for a long time, and he survived. I remember David when David was in, like, covering high school sports. So he was like me. We wanted to get there, and we got there. And so I got a lot of respect for him and Mindy. And I'll give you another thing. When I was going through, in between jobs, David, basically with his wife, Mindy, who was at the time, I think she still is, an executive or salesperson, executive for Lou Malnati's. He got me a deal with him. We did a little thing together for Malnati's and stuff like that. So David Kaplan's another guy that, has made it to where he works his ass off. He does. He does. He gets me tired now.
Shout out to him and you, because you've helped us with the Pitch and Hit Club when I was president. Both of you guys have been great to me.
He's there for you. He's there for all those guys. You know what? I have a lot of respect for all these guys. And I think all I say about them is I think a lot of them would like to do even more. But there's certain parameters now because of 2020 you just can't do. I mean, Carmen's terrific. Carmen DeFalco is as good as it gets. He's a solid guy. He likes the White Sox a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I was like that too. But I tell him, Michael, Carmen, you're going to be disappointed. People say it's early. It's early. Well, first of all, it's not, because every loss is worth 3, number one.
Yeah.
Okay, nowadays, because of 60 games. But you can't be saying it's early with 60 games. You just can't. And I've been hearing it's early since 2008 for the White Sox. So I don't fall for that.
Yeah, I'm also a big believer. I know rebuilds occur, but I don't think I think it takes a lot longer, and it shouldn't, because you can rebuild the minor league system, and you can also go out and purchase players and make trades. I know from a smaller standpoint, when I was with the Schaumburg Flyers, we could rebuild within a year, even 2 years. We're ready to rock and roll. I think sometimes that's an excuse.
Hey, I like Jose Abreu. I like him, but there were questions people had: should they resign him?
Yeah.
But he gave. I like it here, and they did go out and get him. He felt loyalty, so you can't say go against that. Should he have gotten another deal? I don't know.
Now
some of these guys are going to have to be traded for pitching down the line. Somebody.
Yes, you're going to have to trade. And I've seen the Cuban guys compete a lot, and I heard the other
Louis Roberts, terrific.
Well, someone said about Roberts on the broadcast, I said, man, this guy's so refined. He's like he's been in the league 5 years. That's because the way the Cubans train him in Cuba,
right,
pair them really well. Abreu, you see all the guys. Chapman.
I hear that. I hear they were a little rough on him at times too, where they chastise him right in front of the people.
It's tougher. It's a little tougher, and they're competitive, but they start them young to do that too. But don't forget, it's an area where they control everything. They control the whole sport. You can't go out and say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No, you're going to do it the way we're going to tell you to do it.
Yeah, and it's working.
And here's what's interesting. I've always said this about Cuban baseball, and I've been there 9 times. What's interesting is, if you think about it, internationally, they've competed at the highest level, and then you wonder, they only have 60,000 players in their country total. We have 26 million amateur players in our country.
Wow.
And you wonder, how can they compete? Remember when their pro teams or their big league club came in and played the Orioles, they competed, right? Well, the reason being is because their pro league's that good. They just don't step it up. They already know how to compete at the highest level because they've got some pretty good leagues there.
You're right, Pete. They don't coddle their players.
Not at all. The Japanese are the same way.
Do they go out for ice cream after a game?
No.
No.
Matter of fact,
Jimmy,
Mike,
you went 1 for 5. Let's go have a cone.
I remember the days internationally where the players were fearful if they didn't win the championship.
Yeah.
We didn't know what happened when they went back home.
Yeah.
It's
a different environment. They want to get out of poverty. Nothing motivates a man. And this goes for Americans too. I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances. I grew up in Uptown in Rogers Park. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We lived in a 5-room apartment, but it puts a chip on your shoulder and it makes you work harder.
And that's my concern about baseball in the U.S., the direction it's heading at the younger level.
Oh, they're coddled.
We're giving rings to 10-year-olds that win a championship. They're getting a ring like this. And
I wouldn't have taken it.
What are they going to want when they're in high school? A contract? A car? It just way too many things are happening at the younger level.
One of the teams I was on in softball, we were playing in a tournament at Independence Park on Irving Park on Chicago's north side. You know where it's at, Peter Irving by the Expressway. We came in second. They gave out second place jackets. We burned them in center field. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not wearing a jacket that says second place. The trophies is a joke. When you got now, I remember though when I bowled in a junior league, they had first, second, and third, place trophies. So I'm not going. But you didn't get second best team, third best team. If you didn't win the title, you didn't win it. Now baseball, it was always first. I played at Dillon's, which was the best little league.
Oh yeah, Mel
ever.
Dillon. Yeah.
On the north side, authentic uniforms. I was on the Cardinals, and you were schooled. We had a guy, Jimmy Schaefer, who used to play for the Cubs, was one of the coaches. Another guy, my coach, I'll never forget him, taught me everything about fielding. Wally Burns. They dressed. It was like night baseball, lights and everything. But we were ridden harder back then as 10-year-olds than I see what goes on now. Because I coached for 6 years at Notre Dame with a guy named Tom Les.
Oh yeah.
He could rival Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the kids respected him because he didn't go over the line, number one. But he didn't mess around. He got in kids' face. And they ended up, we made it to the Sweet 16 a few times with like kids that were carpenters' sons and policemen's sons,
And God forbid, nowadays a high school coach yells at a kid.
It's over.
It's over for them.
I think in the public league it might be tougher than the Catholic schools. Catholic schools, you can yell, but you got to be careful. We're going over the line, no matter who you are. That's the way it is now.
Speaking about the public league, a shout out to, like you said, to the White Sox. They've done a great job with their academies because, you got 4 kids that are going to Michigan. You got another kid was a #1 draft pick, with the Cubs now. I think we need more of that because, travel ball is so expensive. A lot of these young kids, the inner cities, can't afford to play it.
That was great. Howard, the kid Howard getting drafted from Mount Carmel, right? Was he Mount Carmel or St. Rita?
I can't remember if it was.
I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. That's something you never, Chicago kids, public league kids. I mean, a lot of these kids love the sports, and they have tough situations. I've seen it.
Yeah, and travel ball costs a lot of money nowadays.
Oh.
And to go to showcases, that costs money. It's difficult for some kids to afford it.
Well, that's why you need good scouting, and that's why, the Sox draft pick went to a Catholic high school, which helped,
Right.
But I know that the Sox, if they hear, or the Cubs, if they hear there's a talent in the public league, they'll go look at them. If there's somebody playing at Clemente, if there's somebody playing at Lane, they'll find them.
Being now scouts, were you a fan of Moneyball and some of the changes that happened when Moneyball started?
No, and I'll tell you why. That guy got a movie trophy. He hasn't won anything. That's my deal. You got to win before you get a movie or anything. Come on, man. Billy Bean, I like, and it's nonsense about analytics. Analytics, all these years we thought analytics worked. How did I know it was garbage can licks?
Right.
Who are the teams that always bragged about analytics? Houston. And they're banging garbage cans. They're shooting off flares. They're in the scoreboard shooting arrows. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah, I was disappointed that they fired a lot of scouts right after that because they thought that analytics was going to take care of everything. The guys like Mike Rizzo, Chicago guy, as he's a scout that's been in the trenches, GM of the Nationals. He's been in the trenches. He believes in scouts. Obviously he uses statistics. You're going to use a combination of both. But listen, I got to ask you this since you brought it up.
I pounded Mike Rizzo like a rented mule for years over the Strasburg coddling and the Bryce Harper nonsense. And there was fights in the dugout, and he babied Strasburg. He didn't pitch in the playoffs, but look what he did. They won the championship. So guess what? I don't fire on Mike Rizzo.
But they won it after Harper left.
Yes, they did. Well, that was always my contention. Philadelphia's never going to win with Harper.
Well, and also, I'm not a big believer in these big contracts because, you could take that money and go out and buy a pretty good bullpen.
My God.
With starting pitching,
You know what I told my buddy Artie Clear? He lives out in Philadelphia, sportscaster. At the end of the season last year, I said, only 11 more years and you'll be done with Harper. Think about that.
I agree with you.
What happens if Mookie Betts, for instance, just goes in the toilet?
Right.
Or I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a good gamble.
Well, Alex Rodriguez was the first example of that when Texas signed him. And the reason they signed him because Boris, he's pretty smart. He put together a package this big showing them the return on the money they would make, not on winning games, but on all the memorabilia, all the TV and all that. So it's a business.
Do you know, I went with the Sox to the Yankee Stadium. We took the show. I did the show. This is great, from the Waldorf Astoria. I brought my mom. She was impressed, being Italian. I told her the room she was staying in, Joe DiMaggio once stayed in, so she was in seventh heaven.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true or not, but she felt good about it. And I'll tell you what, I went into the Yankee locker room, and the players were all around, and it was the old Yankee Stadium. The same tunnel Ruth went through and the whole thing. And there's this big son of a gun on the other end. By the way, Mike Mussina, we said hi to him. It was a starting day. Just shot daggers at us, and then we kept moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just said hi.
They're serious at that time.
Oh, my God. Mike Mussina. I found out what a Hall of Fame pitcher is all about. And I love Mike Mussina. I saw him. I go, there he is. There's the man, Mike Mussina. And then I said hi, and he went, gave me the look. But the guy at the other end of the locker room, bigger than hell. I go, who is it, a football player? It was Rodriguez with his shirt off.
Yeah.
With his jersey off. I never seen anything like it. I mean, he was built. He was buffed, man.
They're comparing Tatis Jr. right now to Alex Rodriguez, that type of player, with maybe even better defensively.
Well, Alex Rodriguez, I wasn't a fan. Never was.
How about on TV now?
I come from Ernie Banks country where you hit 45 homers, you know, after you had a Coke and a cigarette.
Right.
You know? Sorry.
What about now on TV? What do you think about him on television?
He's okay.
He does,
you know, but I think he's okay. He's okay. You know, I think a lot of people love him, but I think a lot of people don't. And I think sometimes they don't want to watch somebody that had issues.
Yeah, oh, no doubt.
I mean, he almost broke the game.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's people out there that love him. But I was more cut like a Louis. I like shortstops that were little, like Louis Aparicio. Rodriguez is a monster. Hell of a ball player. Big guy. You know? I mean,
speaking of a hell of a player, we're Chicago guys. Sammy Sosa hasn't come back, burned a lot of bridges. What happened? I mean, you've met him. You know him.
I met him when he's 180 pounds with the White Sox.
Yeah.
We called him the Panther.
And he swung at everything, remember?
Yeah. And he couldn't field real well. He had a rocket arm. And then one day, he walked in like Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, like the Incredible Hulk. And the rest is history. Yeah. No man, Pete, benefited off steroids.
And Sammy
elevated his talent. Gave him the confidence he needed more than Sammy Sosa in my lifetime. Bonds was already good. Clemens got saved because I remember Ron Schuler telling me, I go, Ron, why don't we go after Clemens? I said, right, me and McNeil did a Saturday show back in the day. Dan McNeil, Danny remembers it too. I said, hey, why don't you go after Clemens? He goes, well, he's damaged goods. He's at 88 right now. He got to Toronto. It was like, where'd that come from? You couldn't even, the ball had flames on it. So some guys got help through pharmaceuticals. There's no doubt about it. Yep. He got healed through it. So he benefited. But Sosa, are you kidding me? He looked like he needed a sandwich when I met him.
And they were better off just admitting it, and people would probably forgive them, and life goes on. You know, Dan Patrick said that. I remember listening to Patrick, and he said that, you know, at the congressional hearing, Sosa had a interpreter. He said, I don't speak very good English. Dan Patrick interviewed him a ton of times on the radio.
I interviewed him. He spoke perfect to me. And then I'm hearing him up there, and I'm going, oh, boy.
I think
McGuire didn't want to speak any language. You know, he was the other one.
Yep, and it
was a bad part.
He's in the game, and he's in the game. McGuire.
Well, there's some guys get rewarded.
Yeah,
you know,
crazy.
John McCain, the senator, I'll never forget this. He was on the committee, on the congressional committee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, asking Clemens and asking, you know, these guys, all the people that were up at Schilling, all those guys. And before they started, we had him on. Jen Patterson got him. She goes, I got John McCain on. I go, you got to be kidding. Wow. She goes, no. Okay, 1 minute for commercial. We come back. I go, Mr. McCain, how are you, sir? I'm good. You know how we talked. I'm good. Well, I have respect for you. You're going to be doing this congressional thing. I mean, are you guys going to try to test these guys? Are you going to try to maybe figure it out, like something like HGH? You know what he said to me? What's HGH?
On live radio?
Live radio. What's
wow.
HGH? And I said, well, it's one of the things that is getting them ahead of the testing. HGH is like not traceable because I'm explaining to the senator of Arizona what HGH is.
Unbelievable.
So that's when I knew, man, this is going to be a circus, and it was. But they got to the bottom of it. I mean, by the time it was over, the only guy that came out like he didn't do anything was Frank Thomas. And ironically, Frank's the one that sells more over-the-counter pharmaceuticals than anybody in the history of the game.
Yes.
So I don't know which way to go here, but it is legal.
Hey, Mike, you interviewed a ton of important people. You ever, you don't obviously you don't look like anybody that you get intimidated by anybody, but were you ever
I do.
nervous?
I got intimidated by Frank Sinatra, but and the Pope.
Oh, really?
But I'll tell you that. You want to hear those real quick?
Yeah,
Got a million of
absolutely. Are
them.
you kidding?
I'm in Vegas at the Desert Inn. Me and BB, and it's like 95, 92, 93. Tom Dreesen, I see him there at the Desert Inn. Then I run into a guy, he's the president. I got to meet the president of the Paris Hotel. We became friends, Tom Bonatti. And he says to me, you want to go see Sinatra tonight? And I said, hell yeah. I go, meet us down here at 5. You got to get in early. I go, I go into the showroom. They bring me right 10 feet from the guy when he comes out. His booth. Me and BB, they get us champagne, everything. We became instant friends, me and Tom Bonatti. But afterwards, before the concert's over, somebody comes up and says, listen, Mr. Sinatra would like you and your wife to come to the Forum Lounge, which is adjacent to the showroom. And there's going to be a small party. I go, B, are we going? She goes, yeah, we're going. It's Frank Sinatra. What are you going to do? I get there. It's a long table, 20 seats, long table. Keely Smith is performing for just this party. Sinatra's paying her.
Wow.
He doesn't say nothing to me for like 2.5, 3 hours, to nobody, basically, except some people around him. And he's drinking Jack and Coke. Boom, boom. The guy's an older guy. Boom. Lighting cigarettes. Jimmy, the guy's like in his 80s, I go, you know what, B, we got to get out of here. We'll just go out this way. So I say goodbye to the people. I get up, we start walking out, and Frank Sinatra goes, or I hear a voice go, where you going? I go, I turn around. Now, we've been there 3 hours.
Wow.
Where are you going? I go, I look, it's Frank Sinatra asking me where I'm going. I go, we're going to be right back. Or go use the washroom. We go outside I go, B, do you see that? Yeah. He says, come. He had told me, come back after you're done. I come back, talked for about 20 minutes, said he loved the Cubbies, gave me a pack of Camels, which I found out later he gives to a lot of people, like Dennis Miller and other people they've told that he likes. He's lighting cigarettes, pounding. He's going, boy, they don't make music like they used to. I'm going, whoa. But there's no pictures. None.
Not one.
None,
picture.
because we didn't have them. 92. Yeah. You didn't have them. You didn't have the picture phones.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of times we would have had a lot of pictures.
But that
was when I was intimidated. Then the other one is when I took 35 people to Italy for my anniversary, me and B's anniversary. Our 25th, we renewed our vows in Italy. I took my both families. I took my Guzman. Yeah, until I got the bill. And then, which was fine. Sort of. No. So anyway, the Pope comes out. We're in the first, the second row, because we put the package together. And since we put that package together and brought all these people,
you got to meet
the travel agency set it up. So I'm right there.
Wow.
And the Pope, he's sitting like right near us. And I swear to God, Pete, he looked at me and B. He looked me in the eye, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I'm not kidding, man.
Wow.
And then he looked away. I mean, it just weird stuff like that. Those two guys there, I mean, those are meeting the cream of the crop, the Cadillacs of Cadillacs.
Yes, but speaking of Italy, I got a beef with you because I heard you say this one time. You should have took me with you, and I'll tell you why. You said you didn't like the food in Italy.
The portions are too small.
Oh, I thought you meant, because I heard you on the radio one time say, the food
pizza
wasn't that good in
margarita.
Italy.
I love pizza margarita. We used to get for breakfast. I was there for 10 days. Rome, Venice, Positano, Sorrento.
Been all of them.
Buses, swimming, coves, the whole thing. I thought it was at Riverview. So, we're on the side of hills, the thing's ready to fall down the crevice. I mean, it's unbelievable. John Tesh was at the hotel when I was there. John Tesh is an international singer, blonde-haired guy, and he was there. But, I mean, I had, in the morning, cold cut. They eat cold cuts in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. And that was great. But when you went out, they put the pizza in front of me. I go,
Because you're used to Chicago the thick
I'm
crust.
looking at Malnati's.
There's no thick crust there.
My mom, I go, what is this, Tombstone? I go all the way here for Tombstone? What, was this frozen? The guy goes, are you kidding? I go, wow. You know, but it was a great time. Venice was cool.
The beautiful
Venice to me is the weirdest.
Yeah.
There were kids playing. There were 2 kids kicking a soccer ball and it went in the water. You're done.
Right.
I hope you enjoyed the 3 kicks you had because there's no fences. There's nothing. You want to play catch it, the ball goes over your head. It's gone. It's in the water. There's water everywhere. I sat in the back of the hotel for 3 days drinking because that's what and just staring. Fire engines on the water.
Yeah, you know, everything water. Which one was your favorite city?
Venice.
Really?
Well, pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sorrento, Positano.
Yeah,
Rome was dirty. Rome was filthy to me.
Yeah, Rome's getting real dirty, unfortunately. But it's
you know,
but listen. When you go to the Coliseum, I mean, incredible.
It was great, but you know what? It sort of takes away your aura when you hear somebody drilling. You know, they've been remodeling that place for like 100 years.
Right.
I hate to tell them, if it's any other building, it's condemned. I just got a funny feeling.
Hey.
I mean, I went in, I go to B. I go, B. That's where the lions came out. And she goes, by the scaffolding? It takes away the whole, you know what I mean?
True. That's changed.
I go, no, by the ladder where the guy's drilling. You know what I'm saying? But it is something to see.
It is. And then the Vatican. Once you see the Vatican, there's no other church to see.
Okay, there's 35. Both families are Italian. I mean, they're almost fainting, my aunts and uncles. They go, oh my God, look it. It's the Sistine Chapel. And I'm going, what's the netting doing there? You know, they have netters. And the guy goes, because birds were flying in.
Right.
And they were getting. I go, okay. So then I look at the actual ceiling, and my aunt goes, oh, is that beautiful? Is that one? I go, I got to be honest. I think it's average, I said. I thought it was more intricate when I saw it. Didn't you?
Yes, but for those times, for those times,
yeah.
You know, nowadays it's different, but for those
guy
times.
Does a job like that for me nowadays, he's looking for work.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I know the story. He was on his back. Try sitting up because you know what? It was okay. I thought the Sistine Chapel, I mean, did it overcome you? It didn't overcome me. You know what overcame me?
Right.
Pope John the 23rd laying over there.
Yep.
You walk into the church. I go to my mom. I go, look at that over there. I wonder what that is. I walk over. I start walking over, and I go, wait a minute. That's Pope John the 23rd. He's just laying there, right? He's just laying there. It was wild. It was a great trip. Went to the Wine Academy, got screwed up there.
But you got to say, I mean, the food, the wine, the culture, incredible.
Grew up, I was raised basically more Italian than Irish. You know, people ask me, you know, being Italian and Irish is rough. I mean, people don't realize it. It's a conflict.
It's a combination.
You know? Yeah. So, but it was an experience to go to Italy. I've been to London. You've been to more places than me. But Italy to me was, we're going to go back. And my uncles and people, because I took them there, they've been back a couple times. So
I love it. I go every year. Every year I'm there.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird, man. I remember they had the counterfeit purses, the Gucci counterfeit purses with the Nigerian kids selling it.
Yeah. What's happened is, you know, a lot of the Chinese are there a lot. That's one of the issues they had with the virus is they had 30,000 Chinese working up north. You know, and they came over right when the virus hit, and that's why the north got hit really bad. That's just one of the areas.
I want you to ask them a question for me next time you're in Italy.
Sure.
Whoop. Hold on. Screwed on this thing.
You had to love the driving.
What?
You had to love the driving.
You should have seen him driving the bus.
I know.
Like we're hanging off the hill. Oh, this is a wonderful trip, isn't it? I'm looking over. It's like a 2,000-foot drop.
Right.
I go, yeah, it's good. But ask them why their hockey team and their teams don't wear the red, white, and green. They wear the blue.
Good question. And I know them well, and I can't even answer that. The blue.
I mean, I just don't. I understand. It might be because of let's see. Hey, B.
I'm looking on here to see if anybody knows that.
Why does the blue why does the Italians wear blue? Is it because of the Blessed Virgin?
I don't know, but it always reminds me so much of the water, how it's surrounded by water. I don't really know.
Surrounded by water. Okay, you're off the scent.
Hey, speak about that.
But the flag is red, white, and well, no, their actual colors are red, white, and green, like the flag.
You're right.
They wear blue uniforms.
They wear blue, even their national team. Mike Piazza is their manager for their national team, the Classic.
You know Mike Piazza, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Ask him. Someone north in Chicago needs to know this. I've been asking, listen to this, I'll never forget it. When they played Ireland in soccer in the World Cup in the 80s, you couldn't move in this town. You remember? You had Harlem Avenue was jammed, Bridgeport was packed, and they came running out. And here come the Irish. Got the nice uniforms, the color of the flag. Italy comes running out. They're wearing like dark blue. I go, I'm sorry. How do they not wear red, white, and green? So, and really what's ironic is the Irish and Italian flags are basically the same except for one color. One's orange and one's red.
Right. You stumped me. I mean, I've been in Italy 30 years. I've been dealing with the baseball program a long time. And
What's the official what do they wear for the baseball program?
Blue.
What color? Blue. Why would they wear blue?
Good question. I was hoping one of the Italians, sometimes I get a lot of Italians on the show.
They don't know.
They might not know.
They're cutting coupons. Listen, can I tell you the Italian people I know? They're cutting coupons right now. They're busy. They're cutting coupons, getting ready to go to Aldi's. Okay.
Well, and they're also concerned about our statue, the Columbus statue that's been taken down all over.
Don't get me started.
That's
First
another
of all,
story.
I'd just like to say this. I'm irate about the two statues, but I'd also like to say I didn't know we had two Columbus statues. Okay. But I don't think any statue should be knocked down. I think you either move them and you should not, if you're the mayor, take them down after all the police have been hurt.
I agree with you. They should go through legal process.
Really, she crapped the bed on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I just think, there's history. And if you want to take the history and put it in a museum, and put it in a museum, but do it legally.
Wait a minute. If Columbus hadn't discovered America, I know he committed atrocities. So does everybody else. He chopped off hands. That's what I hear. I wasn't there. But if it's not for him, you and I aren't talking right now.
Right.
That's it. That's the end of the story. If he thought it was the Bahamas, I think, or something.
Right.
And he said, wait a minute. Now I know what he did, and I know the things he did. But George Washington, Christopher Columbus, those guys get a pass in my world. And in the old days, I'll never forget this. In the 90s, I remember there was like 100 Italian groups back then. You know how they got Asian groups, black groups, this group, that. Well, they had 100 chapters in Chicago. And they went after guys like who liked the Sopranos. They went after the Sopranos. They held the, because of being portrayed in a negative light.
Sure.
Yet, what they were doing was gangster-like.
Right.
Okay? Trying to tell people you can't like this or can't like that. I'm not going to mention names. I know who they all are. They just figure the 90s and look around. But I remember saying, I got in trouble for this, and they came and talked to Ron Gleason. I don't know if this is going to be in the movie or not. I had said on the air with Jiggets, I go, let me tell you something about us Italians. We are the worst fighters when you regimentate us. When you tell us to march
Yeah, that ain't gonna
You
happen.
tell it, yeah, we're gonna get killed.
Right.
Now, if you put us in some baggy grays, you know, with some combat boots, which would be issued, and also, you know, the Italian tee, stuff like that,
Yeah.
we will kick butt. We will kick butt.
You got reprimanded
And
for that?
and they came after me for saying that because I was demeaning the Army. Which, by the way, my grandfather fought in the Italian Army, and I said to him, "How'd you do?" He goes, "Well, we did good for the one side,
Right.
but for the other side, we had a little bit of an issue." In his broken English,
Yeah.
"We're doing good here, and then we're doing, but over there, no." I didn't know. I was because he had a picture of himself in his Army uniform, in his Italian Army uniform.
Yeah.
So then I read one day that there was a plane that was being Italian. There was a plane being invented by an Italian man. True story. And it was a plane that could go forward, but if things got rough, retreat and go backwards.
Yes.
I said, that's perfect for us. All hell broke loose.
Oh boy.
Just for little stuff like that. And now they're knocking down statues and everybody's going, "Oh, that's all right. Let's have lunch."
Imagine now you saying that now. I mean, if you were on the radio, you'd be done that day. Now, you know,
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out. Let me give a shout out to Ron Onesti, our good friend. Because, you know, if it wasn't for Ron,
Ronnie!
hey, if it wasn't for
I
Ron,
got a Ron Onesti. Is he on?
no, but he was on the other day. I was hoping he'd be on because he was
Okay,
on the other
Ron,
day.
the
But,
best.
you know, if it wasn't for Ron, you and I wouldn't have met because he's the guy that introduced me to you when I was looking for an MC for the USA, remember the Pan Am program?
Yeah, I could have done a better job. I remember. I don't know
Better
how
job,
tired, but
You were awesome.
we had a good time. But I'll tell you this, Ron Onesti, he used to have a place called Softball City.
Yes.
And what I did was we ordered our softball uniforms and our basketball uniforms and all for BBs for all the leagues at Ronnie's place.
Yeah.
Well, then Ronnie, I mean, he's got the theater now.
Doing great.
He's exploded. He's doing great.
I don't know if
And
you
I've
saw.
I've known Ronnie Onesti. I've known Ronnie Onesti for 40 years.
I don't know if you saw, but recently he's now the president of the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. And he went downtown Chicago when they took down the statue, brought a lot of Italians down there and had a press conference because they're standing up to the mayor that, you know, that needs to be done right. So
I'm glad. Well, Ronnie's been one of the best. He's a great spokesperson.
Yep.
I know in Little Italy, he's done lots of stuff. He has the fests and everything else. I've kept up. Ronnie and I have and BB, who Ronnie adores BB and BB adores Ronnie and we know Ronnie's wife and we've been with them. Wonderful guy, just a wonderful guy, and I'm proud of him, to be honest with you. And
absolutely.
both of us were just small businessmen at the time. Hot dog stand and T-shirt place where he made softball uniforms. And now,
I used to get my
years later,
uniform
we can
from
look
him.
back and laugh about it, you know?
He's doing awesome, and I'm happy for him. Hey, Mike, listen, I'm sure BB's going, hey, Mike.
Yeah, it's time to go. I'm tired now. I'm starting to wear down.
All right, man. Listen.
Not really, but you know what? At some point, common sense is to take in.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I could talk to you all day, every day. I hope we can get together soon. I really appreciate being on the show, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, my friend. It's been too long. It's good to see you. Best to you and your wife with all the stuff that you guys do. I think you personally, in my world, have one of the greatest rackets going. I don't know how you did it, but you're a coach of every country.
I've survived a long time in the game.
I go, Ronnie, where are you? Where are you? I'm in Bulgaria, but I'll be in Cuba tomorrow. I go, okay, fine. And all you do is travel. But you know what? You've taught a lot of kids, man. You've been a credit to the game of baseball. And you know what? I believe in you 100%. And you've never, ever basically gotten off course for your love of the game.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Give my best to BB. You guys are fantastic. Love you.
You to your wife, too, man.
All right, man. That is Mike North. I'm Pete Caliendo. This has been a great show. Thanks for joining us live on Facebook. And please remember, subscribe to YouTube, Peter Caliendo.
Oh, Ronnie.
And you get all the shows Remember, also, don't forget, we are heading to Cuba with a 15U team, baseball team to Cuba. If you're interested, email me at caliendo19@gmail.com. This is the show that loves interview baseball's best coaching minds. I'm your host, Pete Caliendo. Stay safe. God bless you all. And we'll see you on tomorrow's show.